Mark, hey, what's going on, man?
Oh, hey, Jono. Not much. What's going on with you?
Well, I've just done a podcast with you.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
What's it called?
Well, it's called What's Your Scene? But what's it about, Jono?
Well, we talk to individuals who are into something that they love, something they're passionate about. Maybe even they're involved with it with work. It's called What's Your Scene?
Yeah, doesn't that sound exciting?
It's awesome, man.
And you know what? I'm super pumped right now because we have been putting kind of months of work into this, finding people, doing these interviews, dragging along people to studios or whatever it might be. And we are finally releasing our first episode. It's about Harry Potter.
That's right, and we're kind of muggles, so we don't know much about it, but we were taken to school with this podcast.
Which is awesome because, we're both slightly too old for Harry Potter, but I knew that it was there, and it's this big thing of, what is this thing?
It's really important to a lot of people.
Yeah, and now I understand why it's important to them. I know, right?
So yeah, that we had our first episode. It was so awesome and such a good conversation. I really learned a lot, and really it's getting to know people and know what they love.
I know, and that's kind of what drives me in life, and that's kind of what drives you in life, is just we're excited about people who are excited, and this is just a great way to do that. So if you like getting excited...
What's your passion?
Yeah, then, you're going to like this show. And you know what? If you have a passion that you think is the coolest thing in the world, Jono...
You can get in touch with us.
Oh my goodness, they can at what'syourscenepodcast@gmail.com or on the twits, which is cool slang for Twitter.
Yeah.
At WYS_podcast.
Hit us up. Tell us what your scene is. Tell us what your passion is. We want to know and interview you about it.
Yeah. I mean, heck, we're finding out new things all the time. So, without further ado, our inaugural episode with Colleen Evanson and Dr. Ben Tully teaching us and bringing us to school about Harry Potter.
Let's go. Hi guys, welcome to What's Your Scene?
Yeah, What's Your Scene with Marc and Jono. I'm Mark Calderaro.
I'm Jonathan Oldham.
And we're here at this podcast where we talk to new people from different subcultures and different interests every week.
We want to find out what people are into and why they love it.
Because I love stuff, but there's too much stuff to love. Right?
And there is more stuff to love, and we want to find out about it.
Exactly. So this week we have, two wonderful people on, and who are y'all?
Hello. I don't know why I made that so awkward. Hi, I'm Colleen Evanson, and this is my husband.
Ben Tully.
All right.
Yeah.
It sounds like there was such a pause that some guy had to run in and switch places.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy.
Let's just imagine that's what happened.
Yeah.
So and you guys are here because you're going to teach us about Harry Potter. Is that right?
Oh wait.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're going to try to teach you. I feel like when you're like,
we're going
to teach you about Harry Potter, I'm like, do I know enough?
Well, you got to enthuse us about
Harry
Potter.
Let me get you jazzed about Harry Potter.
Try to get you excited.
Yeah. Yeah, and so this is perfect. So that's and in the end, we're here to be jazzed. It's not like we're not the teacher where we're here in 5th grade and we don't want to be here and we're a little annoyed. We are super pumped to learn about this. So, and understand anything. Because, quite frankly, the format is generally Jono and I'll just give a little intro about what we know of this subject, which is generally basically dick.
I know I'm a muggle.
Oh,
that's good. That's accurate.
And Muggle
as far
is
as
a
I
thing
know.
which I use Muggle in Magic the Gathering terms. Whenever someone who doesn't play Magic the Gathering, people call them
See,
Muggles.
I would be a Muggle to Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
So I know what Muggle means, if only through the fact it's it means you
through
don't
a different magical thing.
That the Magic the Gathering people co-opted.
Right. Sure. Yeah. We co-opt a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Basically what I know about it is it's for me, it always seemed like it was something that was just 2 years too young. Like, I didn't pay attention to it, but it was that thing that as a nerd, as like a Lord of the Rings nerd, this thing came out and I was like, screw this thing, like, I like the real stuff,
Sure.
you know? And then I never actually read it at all.
Right.
And then I saw...
I'd like to read a really super dense novel instead.
I was like a super
Lord
douche.
of the Rings.
I was a super douche about it.
and I was kind of
Hardcore sci-fi.
Yeah.
Hardcore sci-fi.
Right. I looked at it as like reading a book, no. And then the movies came out, I was like, okay.
I can do that, yeah.
Got into the movie and saw the first one and the last one. That was
Wow.
That's my sort
That's
of
an
like,
interesting bookend.
Yeah, and the first one was because it was like, it was popular and everyone was going and seeing it. And then the last one had to do with a girl more than anything else. She was a girl I was dating that was slightly younger than I was. And,
I thought for a second you were explaining the plot line.
No.
And then, the girl, I was like, you are wrong, so you did not see Harry Potter.
Then you learn about
it
Jono,
is
he
a
relates a
plot
lot
line.
of things through the ladies.
To the
That's
women.
just how
Got it.
Well, I have to have a reason why I'm
Did you have to
interested in
pretend
it.
to cry during it?
I let her experience it.
Okay,
you
good.
know, I was
Was there any? Did she have any thought that you had seen the other ones? Because the last one's part 2, right? So you have to come in at the in the midway point of the story.
Yeah.
She was a little self-absorbed that it wasn't really important how I was experiencing.
How'd that relationship work out?
I'm married and we have 2 kids.
Good decision. That sounds great. She sounds wonderful.
I actually attached with her, and she's a bitch. Actually worked out. She's actually a bitch.
Years later.
When I don't want to try and have sex with her, she's actually a bitch.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
so
that was my experience. Maybe it's a little hampered by that.
happens.
Sure.
And
that's
messy
for our
love
other
triangle.
podcast called Jono's Best Relationships. So I guess, and
I
so
think that podcast should just be called "She's a Bitch."
I am.
Well,
I'm not the host of that show.
Yeah.
maybe some of them are bitches.
Yeah.
So
Some of them are bitches.
Some of them are bitches.
So when it comes to it, so as far as the actual plot goes, for me, it's like Harry Potter is this dude. He's important. He goes to this wizard school and he wizards. And at certain
fairly
times
accurate.
he does more or less wizardry, and that's really all I know. There were friends, and there were jerky friends. Actually, this is something I don't understand. There's an evil house at the school.
Slytherin.
And why would the house allow evil people? Why would they even?
Slytherin has a bad rap. We'll get into it.
Yeah, okay. But it doesn't make sense to me that if you're in this, you're just an evil douche. Or
Usually, yeah.
Or if you're just in this house, you're
a
an
dumbass.
idiot.
Yeah, that's Hufflepuff.
Yeah, which was always my joke. That was the one word I knew was Hufflepuff. So
I mean, even it sounds dumb.
yeah,
it even sounds dumb.
literally, but that is as far as my knowledge goes. But I also know that a lot of people in life who I respect and love, and many of whom are slightly younger than me, although y'all are not. But they
we older.
They they revere this thing, and it is really. And I've realized at this point, and I think Jono, you'd agree that we kind of missed out on a thing.
There's always time.
Yeah, and hence
There's
why
always
you're
time.
invited to this podcast, right?
And I do feel like if I was maybe 3 years younger when it first started becoming a movie and
It's a very specific
big thing,
number.
3 years.
yeah.
If I had been 3 years younger,
I do. I feel like that was that was
Damn
that was the cutoff.
Damn you, Father Time!
it's kind of marijuana and raves sort of took over from my
Got
Harry
it.
Potter.
But if you were,
If I had free time between all
His
the
other
marijuana and
podcast-
raves I was participating in,
His other
I would have
pod-
read more Harry Potter.
His other podcast is those
No
raves
one
were
invited
bitches.
me to the rave, so I had plenty of time for Harry Potter, which
Yeah.
is
or some of those raves were
yeah.
bitches.
So
Yeah,
that's
some of them raves.
and so
were
that's
bitches.
basically the gist of it. But but you guys
You're pretty
are
much
fans.
accurate for the most part
Well,
in your
yeah.
vague description of wizarding. Yeah.
Right. Well, but that's as much as I know. I know how to tell the facts that I know. There is someone this is
Okay,
I
let's-
think there's someone named Hermione.
Yep.
yeah.
And that person
Hermione.
might have stopped someone named Lisa Turtle.
No. Lisa Turtle is from Saved by the Bell. She's the black girl.
Oh, cross genre.
Okay.
Yeah.
But wait, you told me this earlier. It's You're mouthing it to me like you're really.
I know.
thanking
Like
me.
I want you to have this win.
Yeah,
Moaning Myrtle.
It's Moaning Myrtle. Okay,
but
not
she
Lisa
didn't really
Turtle.
stop Moaning Myrtle.
No, that
Moaning Myrtle is a good entity.
I've seen a
she's
couple
just
movies.
kind of a character.
Well, she's whiny. I've
Yeah.
seen the movie and she was just whiny.
Of
Okay,
course, she's
so-
Moaning Myrtle.
Yeah.
Like she's gonna be. It's like Debbie Downer. Like it is what it is.
So so tell us like what was your guys' experience with this thing? Oh, by the way, hold on, I just want to get this in because I get to do this. So Colleen and Ben are friends of mine, and they got married recently, and their ring bearer was literally a working R2-D2.
sure.
It was. We
And-
also had
Yeah.
wands that we gave to everybody.
So
at
like the
table.
wedding,
Which I just
the
got-
wedding,
Which he got one.
I don't know the thank you for attending gift.
Yeah, like a gift, I guess.
was a wand,
A custom-made wand.
Custom made wand. So most people were okay with it, and a
Yeah.
couple people were kind of disappointed. I think.
No,
What?
like-
it was like a wand.
And that's a homemade wand
Everybody
from what?
fucking loved it, and they kept them all.
It was just a wand.
If you were at the wedding and you didn't like the wand, fuck you.
This
me
is
a
why
long
you
time to
guys
make
got
those.
invited to the podcast because you
Yeah.
gave they were Harry Potter wands. Is that
Yes.
correct?
I mean,
Well, we made they're handmade.
and
well-
I tried to make some of them look like certain wands.
So that
but,
that kind of qualifies you. You
Yeah.
Yeah.
gave out wands at your
and also
wedding.
the place where we got married looked like Hogwarts. It was like a mansion
That was
castle.
part of the reason
So
why she
they
picked
were
it.
And that's why I picked that place.
they were Harry Potter inspired wands, and
We also had,
venue.
for those who are fans of Harry Potter, we had a Martyrs map, which in the movies and in the books is like a moving map of Hogwarts, and it shows all the rooms. So we had the schematics of the mansion on the map.
Oh,
There's plenty of
As, like,
it,
our
it kept
program.
getting deeper. There's a lot of Harry Potter stuff. Our table, the couples table was Harry Potter themed.
I had my bouquet was Harry Potter book pages,
Okay, this is
like
This is-
origamied. It was
and I have
very
actually,
strong qualification.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've actually been to their bathroom before.
Oh yeah,
It
and then
is-
we have a bathroom.
It's under the stairs, so naturally
so
it's
it's the
a
bathroom under the stairs.
I don't know. I don't understand.
You don't
why.
Harry
understand the
Potter.
reference.
One of the first chapters when you read it after we talk,
okay.
is about how he lives. He's the boy like under the. He lives under the. Well, he's the boy who lived first of all,
Right.
But he lives under the stairs
Harry.
So he
Harry.
goes. He is after his parents are murdered
brutally.
by.
I'm
another-
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
He has to live
He
with
got
his
Bambied.
aunt and uncle who despise him and he doesn't know why.
Okay.
And so they make him live in their spare coat room under the stairs.
Oh, okay. So your bathroom is under the stairs, and it's Harry Potter themed and fitting with that. Yeah, and under your toilet seat, you have like this way
to the Ministry of Magic, because that's how you get in.
There's a
Is
reference.
through a toilet?
Yeah.
Yes.
You stand on the toilet and you flush yourself in.
I tweeted one time. I'm not gonna lie. I took a picture of that thing and
Did you?
I tweeted it, and I said, "Are you sure this isn't a gateway to the whole Harry Potter world?" See, that was a
Wow,
yeah,
that's
that was-
really mean.
And I didn't even understand the reference too. I was just like,
And everybody's like, it is.
Everyone's like, yeah.
And he's like,
Try it
and he's
out,
like,
idiot.
No, I don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to make fun of it. Everybody's like, yeah, but that's actually how you get there.
Okay.
You go with the poop.
okay, so what's the deal? So how did you guys find this thing? What was your
Sure.
experience with it when you guys?
Do you want to start?
I mean, yours is so much more coherent than mine.
Okay, fine.
start with coherence? If I know
Start
one
with
thing about
coherence and then
podcasts.
let it
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
fall apart.
Yeah.
So as I had said earlier, in high school, the movie was coming out, and there was this like fervor everywhere about the movie, the Harry Potter. And I hadn't read anything. When I was much younger, used to religiously read Goosebumps, and then I kind of grew out of it and was like, well, the only other books I was forced to read were school books, and those
Yeah.
were boring. So in my head, I was like, books are boring.
Yeah, if there isn't a story about like a mannequin coming to life and attacking people, you're
like,
not
who
interested.
cares?
Yeah.
The Ghost Next Door, yeah, I'm in. Like the Catcher in the Rye, boring.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Literature sucks.
Yeah, literature is boring.
As you know,
And
Catcher in the Rye is not a good book.
No,
Well,
no. I mean, I think
that's
they did
debatable.
they did a South Park.
That's
episode.
debatable.
It's not a good book.
It's also a book that makes a lot of people want to assassinate other people.
Yeah, that's
Apparently.
true.
Which is fun. Fun fact about Catcher in the Rye. But
I missed
moving
one.
on. So I was kind of like, books, blah, whatever. And my brother is 5 years younger, so he had a bunch of the books at the time.
Oh.
So
okay.
when it was everywhere, I was like, what is the fucking deal with this book? Like, and I, much like Mark, was very like counter culture of like, oh, if you want me to read this thing and you're telling me it's cool, then I super don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Just to like piss you off.
Right.
So I was like, fuck Harry Potter, bleh, can't be that good. And then
It sounded just like that.
yeah, that's my impression of you, spot on.
Thank you.
Points for me. So I snuck into my brother's room and I grabbed the Harry Potter book and I couldn't put it down. And it awoken my brain space of like imagination and being like, oh, holy shit, books. Like I can escape into like this cool world. And I also had underestimated how good I was. Like, it's going to be like a kid, right? Like, it's a kid who's a fucking wizard. Like, how creative can it be? But the entranceway to the world is like two adults talking about what's happening with this like baby, and you're like, wait, what? So like right away kind of puts you into this like world that you're like, oh, this is like an adult kind of world though.
Okay.
And I couldn't put it down. My eyes were like burning, which was something I learned much later in reading the Harry Potter books. You just keep reading till your eyes are like, please shut me. Like, I need to.
Yeah.
And so I put it away, went to school the next day, brought the book with me, and did not pay attention in school. I sat blatantly, and I was like a good student in school. I always had the like, pleasure to be in class. And I just like straight up was just like, the teacher was teaching, and I was in the front row, and I was like, fuck you, I'm reading this book. And then right after I finished it, I left with some friends and we saw the first movie, like the day I finished it.
And the movie was good.
At the time, because I was so excited to see the world.
You had eye burning.
I had eye burning.
Yeah.
No, but I was really excited to see what everybody looked like, what things were. Also, how to actually pronounce Hermione, because reading it, I was like, Hermione, what is her name? Like, so I was just excited to see the world, and I didn't have to wait at all. It was like, I was part of like, almost like the Netflix people who just binge watch things.
I hate you people.
I got to read it, and then was like, cool, bye, seeing the movie, don't have to wait at all.
And that's exactly how it's kind of going now with my girlfriend and I, about like, I had watched X-Files.
Oh, and you had to wait like months. Is he dead? I don't know.
And it's so funny, like, I'll go away for the weekend on work, and Catherine would be like, oh, is this what it was like to like not be able to watch this thing?
You're like, yes! It was that times a million.
Yeah, and so you are my girlfriend right now, like, just being like, I guess I could have just watched this movie whenever I want.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So, Ben, did you have like a similar sort of thing, or what do you think?
Yeah, mine was similar, but I guess the timing was off, because I guess I would have read Younger Siblings as well. I would have read it as book 4 was coming out, and so that was like book 4.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Would have been a
no
couple
idea
years before the movie.
This means nothing to
came
us,
out.
by the way. Just
Sure,
so
that's
you know.
fine.
Book
So there
4,
are 7 books in the series.
No, he's right, because when that movie came out, the first movie came out, my brother had 4 books, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I get to catch it. That was another dick thing of like, cool, I can read the next bunch of books like real fast.
Real
It's not like those poor people who are stuck on like the Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're just
Right.
like,
Yeah.
Waiting
Yeah.
forever.
Like a chump.
Yeah. Also one of those people.
Yeah.
So it would have been Younger Siblings. There's a good chance that we either received the books as a family as a gift, or they had.
Fun
or
fact
they
about
had-
Ben, he's actually was born in England.
Yes.
Even though he has no trace of an accent, which is a super bummer for me, because I would have been like way more into him.
And so, I'd have to go and check this, but the version of Harry Potter we received may have been like the
Philosopher's Stone,
right? The
probably.
British version. It wasn't
The
Philosopher's Stone,
appropriate version.
right? The spelling might have had O's,
Fancier
OU, and all
the
of the
fucking pretentious
colors
British
and
version.
No, the
stuff
way
like
it should
that.
be, the way it should be.
proper English spelling.
Righto.
They're correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want you guys to know, if you didn't understand anything that happened in the last 30 seconds, Ben was kind of talking about something that was
And
on
then-
topic, and
yeah.
then Jono and Colleen were just
kept
saying
being like,
different
"Righto."
Britishisms over it. Yeah. Okay.
Cheerio,
Yes,
pip pip.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, this is the first time, I will admit, this is the first time we're doing a 4-person podcast, so sometimes it's going to get a little crazy.
It's gonna get messy, just like
It's hectic, but it's a lot of fun.
I mean,
an orgy.
and I was
probably.
definitely
don't know.
quiet the
I don't
whole
know. I've
time
never
you
been
told
there.
your story.
Ben, you did a very good job.
Thank you.
I'm a New Yorker, so I'm like, you're talking, no, I talk.
Okay.
So I read them, and I was.
But I don't understand how this is incoherent to me.
Yeah.
Because they just materialized in your house.
Yeah, I'm sure
and then
they
you
did.
just started reading.
Yeah, I don't remember what the order was. Either I had heard about it and brought them into the house, and then everybody else read them.
It's almost
or
like-
my
it's
sister
almost like
read them first, and
magic.
then I read them. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's almost like magic.
Right,
Almost
no,
like
and that
magic.
makes perfect sense.
something
in a
like
house.
there was a
It just
cross
happens
Calculated.
there.
there was a cross contamination.
So I think the interesting thing that I've noticed is that like this makes perfect sense is that
there were siblings,
younger siblings
that happened to have the books, and everybody, that makes some sense.
Because for me, I had like I was looking really cool. I was in metal bands. I wasn't gonna like read this stupid guy.
Again, I was none of those things.
Yeah, Ben was a super nerd.
Yeah, I mean, and that was so. Unlike Colleen, I did like reading, but at that time, I was reading mostly crap. Right, would be the only way I could think about it. Right,
What? Please describe.
Well, it would have been mostly things like Star Wars
fan
novels.
fiction.
No, it's not fan fiction. They were officially published.
It's not canon.
Yeah.
It's not canon.
Not canon anymore. But like, I think, except for the books I was reading for school, the books I was reading for fun generally were right. Like it was, you were removed from Goosebumps and like the Animorphs period of time, and then there was like I was like I'm into Star Wars, and so it was a lot of reading Star Wars novels, even like the young adult books. They're all just garbage.
But you guys both kind of liked fantasy at this point.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
this was not your first entrant into.
I
the
also, as a
fantasy
kid,
world.
was a huge fan of Snick and Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Sure.
And what was they had another one that was like that.
AYAOD. I just made up.
Are You
that
Afraid of the Dark?
one.
Anagram. There was some other I forget.
Fantasy. Well, there was Erie, Indiana. There was Goosebumps. There was Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the. Oh, yeah.
I used to watch Tales from the
That was
Crypt.
not
That's
on
edgy.
Nickelodeon.
It was,
that was
well,
not
all right,
Snick.
whatever it was. And I also, old school, used to love the Munsters.
Okay. All right.
And that was all you had before Harry Potter, you think, in your like fantasy?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, so this is.
Well, Star Wars, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I grew up on Star Wars. My dad was a big Star Wars fan.
Right.
So we kind of okay. So this makes sense. I understand kind of how you got into it and why I missed it. It wasn't like I was a nerd. It's that you
Yeah,
guys.
because honestly, like, if my brother's book wasn't just there,
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have been like, I'm going
would've
to go
been much- it
walk
would've been much
into a
later.
Barnes & Noble and pick this up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In high school, when, like, I don't have money to spend, really.
And it's interesting because so my college friends and I, we had all read the books. That was one of our things that we were collectively into. So much so that we had a post-college email chain that started with the title of Warning. And so the warning was that one of the people that was one of our friends had read, like had gotten the 7th book when it was released and read to the last page and like wanted to read and was like, and had read the last page. And so the warning was, don't talk to Amanda because she's read the last, and it's now 9 years later, and the title of our email chain is still Warning.
Oh,
and so
that's
it's like one of
cute.
those
Wow.
things of it's been there and built and been part
You
of it.
guys are really lazy about starting new
Yeah,
emails.
it's still, but I think all of my friends had younger siblings as well. So I don't know if all of them except for one, and I think he didn't read it until he came to college, and his girlfriend was like, who is now his wife, was like, you need to read these books, and like push them his way. But everybody who had read them had siblings that were younger.
And so, like, this is kind of perfect, honestly, because like I don't listen to people who are younger than me, and I'm sure you don't either,
That's
Jono.
a good move, probably.
No, I don't. I mean, I'll
Unless it's a hot bitch.
I'll talk to them. I will talk to them, but I won't listen.
Yeah, sure, that's fair enough.
So like, but you guys are our age, so I'll actually be convinced by you. So
Sure.
like, right. So this is we'll you know.
Well, I mean, yeah, because kind of one of the questions that I have is, it's perceived as something for kids.
Yeah.
That's the cover sort of feels like, oh, this is a kid's book for kids. But you mentioned that it's kind of like it starts off from a two adults' point of view, talking about a child, and then yes, because it's. It's about Harry Potter. He's a young boy. He's going through life, but it seems like there's an edge that adults, appreciate as much as kids do.
I mean, the thing too is that when he goes away to school, it's not like he's going to school. That's another thing to kind of clarify about Hogwarts is it's like a boarding school.
Yeah,
So you
it's like
get sent away. You're not like walking down the street in regular like neighborhood and then you go to wizard school. This is like you're sent away and then all the adult figures are the teachers you see in every class. So there's a prominent teacher adult presence everywhere, from Dumbledore, who's the headmaster who's in charge, who's
Dumbledore?
he's like grandpa. He's like zany, weird grandpa.
Okay, sure.
Who's also the most brilliant wizard of his time.
But he's like
Just like Grandpa. It doesn't matter what he did in his previous life.
Yeah.
He's old now.
Yeah.
He's super old, but he's like hilarious and super powerful. But like, he's like Yoda, kind of.
Yeah.
Literally, the only thing
He's
I know
Santa
about
Claus
Dumbledore is that at one point there was a T-shirt company that was releasing a T-shirt that says "Dumbledore dies on page 497."
It should also say Dumbledore's gay. Because he is.
Yeah, well, but
Really?
Dumbledore wasn't gay to start off with.
He was always gay. He was always gay, but they only revealed it later.
Okay,
I think
we're
there
not
was.
gonna-
I think it was very heavily implied.
Wait,
in
so,
that
I mean-
relationship,
Because I'm talking about the actor.
Oh, no, we're talking about the
The actual
character.
the character, yeah,
And it was revealed in the books that he's...
not in the books.
It's not
so
revealed, it's heavily
suggested
implied.
in the
Okay.
books, and then
They don't-
Rowling confirmed it.
We don't
a
need
couple
more
years
reasons to
after.
burn wizard books.
And...
Yeah.
But this to me, this is going down a rabbit hole. We can't
Yeah,
go
this
down.
is-
Yeah,
This
this
is
is too soon. Too soon.
I was going to give you a reason why it's not kid-like.
Yeah.
Right? And so I would think when you're reading it, so it definitely progresses with Harry's life, right? So you're introduced and he's an 11-year-old, right? So how much...
Isn't it 12? Isn't
No,
it?
you're
It's
definitely-
11?
that's definitely 11.
Okay, sorry.
So he's an 11-year-old.
I read the books
And
sometimes.
and as an 11-year-old, I mean, like, how much... He doesn't know anything about the world, right? Like, how much
Sure.
can you possibly... Like, as a writer, what you can write. But by the time and as he gets older, he's introduced to this world where there's actively people pursuing and trying to kill him and his friends, right? So, like
murder, like adult
murder,
Like
murder
straight
as
up murder
soon as
your
you
ass.
can. Like, if they see you, they will murder you on the spot. There's not like a conversation about it. And so, like, that whole world, you know, the second book is still fairly childlike,
Yeah.
but by 3 you're like, well, fuck, this is...
And
this-
4, shit gets real.
it's just like murder and mayhem and like adult...
Like, it's super dark in
this
4.
is-
yeah.
You're like,
and this
oh
is something-
shit.
I mean, in 3 they introduce
killer.
the prison guards where they keep everybody in check by removing your happiness, and then if you get out of hand, they suck out your soul.
These are
Yeah,
Dementors.
I'm down. This sounds
Right?
They
Like,
look,
I mean,
the
like-
Dementors look like the dudes in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, the
The
Wraith
ring
Guard.
wraiths?
Yeah.
Yes,
ring wraiths.
they kind
So,
of
like-
look like that.
Or from
And they suck out all your
Raiders of the
happiness.
Lost Ark, the spirits at the end.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
like a-
Or
Yeah.
in Ghost Rider, the spirits.
All right, with the Ghost Rider.
Saint Venganza. But you bring up this point that actually a friend of mine I remember a while ago, and I'm going to name drop her because in case she ever listens to this, she would be so mad that she's not on this podcast.
Nicole Kidman, anyway.
And her name, Nicole Kidman.
She was in the
Anyway.
Golden Compass, not...
Well, too bad. Okay, no.
Oh yeah, that movie did really well. Let's bring
Yeah,
that one
let's talk
up.
about that.
But she was saying that she compared it to Buffy the Vampire Slayer in that way. That like in the first early seasons of Buffy, you know, she was a freshman in high school or whatever, a sophomore, and the audience was sophomores in high school.
Right.
But like as the books got released or as the seasons came out of the show aged with the audience.
Yeah.
So it almost aged them into adulthood, and then by the end, you know, like by season 6 of Buffy, which is just the saddest, most awful, just oh my god, it's nobody here's a
I have
Buffy
not
fan.
seen it.
Oh my god.
I couldn't get past the first season because I was older at the time, and I was like, "This is too campy."
Okay.
but everyone's like, "You gotta watch the rest of it."
Yeah, it gets
so,
real dark. But
Yeah.
and so that's interesting. And so Megan Licata was the one who told me about this. In case you're listening, Megan, I got you in there. It's okay. but
Hashtag Megan.
But Ben, that seems like kind of the argument they're saying that like
Yeah.
even though it starts light, it
It gets
ages
super
with you.
dark.
Yeah, and
They
it's
grow up a
it's
lot.
tough to say ages with you because I think I don't know this off the top of my head. There's like 15 years between the first book and the last book, right? Like, so it's not like it's a year-to-year thing.
Well-
Sure.
Where you can be like, I started at 11. When I'm 18, I've read all of Harry Potter,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, it
yeah.
was like the people who had initially started reading it were in their 20s by the time they finally got to finish it.
And
But-
they were still playing snitchy whatever thing.
Quidditch?
That's it. Yeah. So okay. So the books though they start out a little young. They they get adult.
I mean, I
there's
will
straight
admit.
up murder.
I will admit, though, so the first book is like an entrance book, right? You're immersed in this world, and that's why the first movie to me was really cool because I finally got to see all the things she was describing, and I feel like they did a really good job of making sure it kind of looked a lot like that. But now looking back at that movie, I'm like, this is a fucking kids movie. Like the acting's like shaky, like from a movie perspective, and not a fan of Harry Potter. That's why I always recommend you read the books and then the movie, because then you will see more of like what they're going for. Because I'm sure if you remember the first one from years ago, you probably don't.
No.
But it is very kid heavy. And the second book, I was like, okay, well, let me read the second book. And the second book was laid out, in my opinion, very similar to the first book. And so I was like, this feels like is she a one-trick pony? Because it had the same format, and then she kind of pulled something out of her ass at the end. And I was like, well, okay. And then the third book was completely different. And I was like, oh, I'm back on board.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
And the third movie is notoriously, like, everyone fucking loves the third movie.
Well, that's the one, like, so I've seen...
Alfonso Cuarón.
Jono has only seen 1 and 7.5.
That's right.
I've seen 1, 2, 3, and 7.5.
Okay.
And, like...
Big skip.
more of a super.
But, like, I loved 3.
3 is
and when
amazing.
is really
And
good.
when I talk to all the people about it, they're like, yeah, well, of course you love 3, because you haven't read any of the books.
Yeah.
You know, because notoriously 3, Alfonso Cuarón, like, fantastic filmmaker.
He did a great job.
Just doesn't
That
really
was-
follow the books. He just does what...
Oh, he
he
does a
did.
pretty good job.
He did.
And all of them, they do a very...
They have to.
Not a very good job. They do a pretty good job,
Pretty good job.
of doing what they can with the source material, right? And making it visually appealing.
Sure.
I mean, there's always way more detail
In the book.
books than there will ever be in the movies.
And there'll be
I
hints and
personally-
nods at it in
yeah,
the movies.
and personally, I prefer the version of the final fight, like in the 7th book, right? Deathly Hallows. I prefer
From the movie?
No, from the book. By far and away, the book fight is great. But
It's-
like,
That's what I've heard, yeah.
but like what
Yeah.
they do in the movie is like, you're like, okay,
That makes sense.
like it's fine. Like it still kind of gets across the same idea
same feel.
behind it.
The same
it's
feel
still
of
kind
it
of like
is
this
there.
epic one-on-one battle, but like,
Well, there's one thing that this was kind of before the whole game of the Hunger Games phenomena, and
right?
the Twilight phenomena.
Everything since then has been trying to do the Harry Potter thing.
And I'm sure when they made the first film, they were like, "Look, this is a popular book. There's 4."
I think they knew. I think they knew they
Well,
had a money making machine.
I don't think
I don't know.
knew for sure. It was never a guarantee. They were just like
People would
that's-
have thought the same about The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and
what I was
that
just
fucking
thinking.
bombed.
Yeah, and it's like it went nowhere, and
Yeah.
it was Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe was definitely trying to like play off Harry Potter's success.
Yeah.
but I don't think they really knew. That's why the first film is kind of like it is slightly shaky because they weren't throwing everything at it.
Yeah.
They weren't going to like waste their time. It was like, all right, let's try out this phenomena.
So that I just realized this. So as we were talking about movie 3 a second ago, so Gary Oldman's in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gary
This is
Oldman
fun fact
lives across the street,
from where we're recording this,
Like,
and I saw him yesterday polishing the inside of his Porsche.
right there.
Can I tell a quick Gary Oldman story?
Sure.
Before I moved to LA and I was interviewing here for like whatever, there was one day where I could not get away from Gary Oldman. He was everywhere I was. It was ridiculous.
Like the man, not like you were turning on the TV and there he was.
No, it wasn't like in Tinker. It wasn't like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy where he was just like hanging out. No, it was literally like I went into this building to interview. He was in that building.
Weird.
Then I
Are
went
you
to
sure though? Because he's like a chameleon.
I know. No, I know because he was wearing an anchor ascot.
Wow.
Yeah, like an ascot with like anchors on it.
I bet you he was pulling it off too.
But like, oh, he was. But then I went to a coffee shop, and like, then he like strolled up to the coffee shop and ordered something, and like sat down next to me. And then I was driving away, and I go to this stoplight, and there's this dude who like has been driving around like, and
Did you
then
say
he
anything?
pulls up next to him, and it's him again.
Oh
Did
my
you say
God.
anything? Did you say, "Hey, Gary"?
Learn how to fucking drive, man. Get on the right side of the road.
Sup, Gary?
Yeah.
So this is the best part about podcasts is I can tell my Gary Oldman story, and maybe he even heard it.
Maybe.
Maybe hear it. I
Oh
heard him
my
singing
God.
the other day
Really?
in
Is he
his
good sing-
house.
is he a good
I mean, he
singer?
had a nice.
What was
voice.
he singing?
I don't.
my God.
I couldn't hear the.
He looks
the
just for
sing.
people who are like, what does he look like right now? He kind of looked like Commissioner Gordon when I saw him.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
All right.
I like that.
So okay. So you know what we haven't
and
talked
for
Also,
you-
one of the
you
best
don't
parts of
know.
the Harry Potter movies, Gary
Yeah,
Oldman.
he is
for
Sirius
sure.
Black.
Oh,
Sirius
yeah.
Black.
Who is a fantastic
Wow,
character.
that sounds like a really great name.
It sounds
This sounds like
Serious.
a great.
Like Sirius
way
Radio.
better than Bezeritis.
you-
Like at
Yeah.
least he can remember the name.
Do you think it's kind of like a casting? We need Gary Oldman's weight it's his.
Well, there's a lot of
because
heavy
they
hitters.
had a lot of heavy British. I mean, that's the thing, right?
they
It's
did. They had all.
all of them,
great
right? Essentially,
I
they
think that's
they
what
went
made
to
it so good,
the
too.
list of British actors and actresses, and they're like, all right, well, there's like 10 people on it, so we'll just put them all in the movie.
Yeah.
So we have done something pretty amazing for talking for 30 minutes so far.
We haven't really talked about Harry Potter.
Like we haven't. What is going on in this?
Okay.
One of the things that we talked about before we started recording was just how deep the world is. So maybe we don't actually have to get into plot too much.
Yeah.
But like world building for any of these sort of fantasy things is really important. Part of Lord of the Rings is like, yeah, the quest for the ring is great, but like the fact that he made languages and there's this maps of stuff and we get what's going on in the world is really important. And it sounds like Harry Potter is very much that way. Is that
That is correct.
true?
Yes. Next question.
What else do you want to know? Yeah, I think one of the cool things is when, like, in the very first book is really like you dive in and you see a lot of this world, and Harry is an outsider to the magical world. So it's not like he was just born into wizard world and you're supposed to understand. Him as your entrance character is kind of like Peggy in Mad Men, where Peggy's sort of like, what is this world, this Mad Men world?
Or
and
Dana
she's
Scully in X-Files.
X-Files. Good reference.
Thanks.
Someone who's kind of like, what is this world and what's going on and how am I a part of this? And he has a lot of... The thing that comes along with him is he's super famous and he has no fucking idea. Everyone in the wizard world knows who he is because as a baby, there was a super evil dude called Voldemort, played by
Fines.
Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes.
And he looks like a lizard with like no nose. Or maybe even Palpatine. Because he was just like killing...
was pure evil.
He was just
There was
like
no-
killing a lot of bitches. Like he had a cult following that was like Sith Lords, basically. I'm going to use the Star Wars references for
Yeah, I
this.
can tell.
Yeah, you're
was.
really going heavily, like, you're like, why do you like Harry Potter? Well, it's a lot,
Well, it's a lot like Star Wars. No, but just so people can understand. Like he had a cult.
Nothing wrong with that.
He had a cult following of people that had hoods that looked like KKK people. So
But
they
they
were
were
like,
black, so they weren't.
yeah,
So it's
but there
okay.
was like a hooded thing. It's not great. And they
Thanks for the save
yes,
there, Ben.
yeah. Totally different. It's black,
It's
not
totally
white.
different types of hoods.
Yeah. And he wanted to just be in power. And he
So
was
it's
wiping
Star
out. He was a
Wars
little bit
Ku Klux Klan.
Hitler-y because he was trying to get rid of anyone that wasn't truly wizard born.
So it is kind of KKK.
kind of KKK.
There's
yeah.
definitely a racist
So he's
element
not
to
great.
it.
Okay.
And also like Hitler, one of his parents was a Muggle. Right?
Right.
So Hitler, being like half Jewish or whatever.
His grandma's
His
Jewish.
grandmother
You
was
know what
Jewish.
I'm saying, though.
So we're talking about, this is basically Star Wars Hitler.
Yes,
This is
Star Wars
okay.
Hitler.
Wars Hitler.
So Star Wars Hitler is really terrible.
Yeah.
There's this...
You're going a lot of plot on this.
well, shut up. I'm just
All right.
letting them know the general thing
Sure.
of the mystery of Harry Potter.
All right.
Which is that, okay, so...
we're on page 2 right now.
Yes, page 2. The... Within the world, there are people who are kind of like psychics or whatever that will tell prophecies.
Sure.
Right? So there's this prophecy that comes out about a boy being born in the summer who has the ability to take down he who must not be named, which is
Star Wars Hitler.
Star Wars Hitler,
Right.
which he cursed his name. So if you say his name, he fucking appears and kills you. Not great.
Only in book
Right, so
seven.
that's where
Only in book seven.
But he used to do that, and that's why they called him he who must not be named.
That's why he who must be not be named.
That's why they
Wait,
say
this-
Voldemort.
Wait,
Voldemort.
I mean,
People
spoil-
don't want to say Voldemort because they're like, that bitch might show up.
So, like, spoiler
Fair
alert,
enough.
like, we can spoil, I don't care, that's part of the... wait, does someone in book 7, like, accidentally say his name and then
Yes.
just get murdered?
Well,
He shows up.
His Death Eaters, aka like KKK hooded people, will show up and
Yeah,
be like,
sure.
"What did you say?" And you're like, "Sorry."
So, like, the David Dukes will show up.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. He's too busy.
Your SS captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the
Your
Gestapo
Rommel,
shows up.
Not your.
So
Hitlers.
there's this prophecy that comes out, and he kind of almost, I want to say maybe like Oedipus Rexes himself a little bit because he hears about this kid and is like, oh, well, I'm going to just kill this kid.
Sure,
So that way
sure.
I can't be stopped.
Classic Oedipus, yeah.
Classic Oedipus.
No, it is. I mean,
Right?
yeah, absolutely.
So he goes to where this child has been born. He goes to Harry. He kills his parents. And then he goes to kill Harry. And the curse rebounds off of Voldemort. And
Off
that's...
of Harry onto Voldemort.
Sorry.
Right.
Jesus. And that's what his scar is. His scar is a mark from the curse, like, bouncing.
Sure, okay. That makes no sense to me, but I'll go with it.
It's the
So
reflection point.
So there are different curses that people can say.
Sounded smart.
Like, so people can cast a curse, right? They say different words that are like Latin words. And there are 3 main really bad ones that you don't want to use. And the killing...
Fuck.
Yeah. Shit. And, yeah.
And
boobies.
And boobies is, less intense, but
Yeah, sure.
So he uses the killing curse, which is like, oh boy, and he tries to kill a fucking baby, and when it rebounds and hits him, it kills him. So essentially, Harry killed fucking Darth Vader
Big
as a
bad
child.
guy. Okay.
And he has this scar to mark him, and so the whole rest of the Harry Potter world's like, huzzah, that crazy bitch is gone. Like, good job, baby
Wicked
Harry.
Witch style, yeah.
And so Harry is brought up, though, in a Muggle world where he's not famous. He's an annoyance to the family that he's
lives
with.
under the stairs.
He lives under the stairs in shitty clothes. Mm-hmm. And so when becomes a wizard and he enters into the wizard world, he's immediately famous. So there are people that want to be his friend, and there are people who despise him.
Which this is like super classic. This is very interesting to me because this is a subgenre trope of YA fiction in general. But it's usually women. I call it the secret garden, or like the little princess subgenre of like someone who is unimportant in their real life and then in her dream world or whatever,
she's actually a princess, and somebody's gonna come and take her away.
Pan's Labyrinth, regular Labyrinth.
Yeah.
What's that other one? What's that one I love? The Neil Gaiman one. No, none of you guys. She's a circus performer, and then she goes into the guy who wrote Sandman.
I know who you're talking about.
But you haven't seen that movie?
No.
It's not Nevermore. It's really cool. Jim Henson Productions did all the animation. But anyway, so it's very interesting to me.
Coraline? It's not Coraline, is it?
No, it's pre-Coraline. But Coraline's another one, right? Yeah. Like Coraline, she's just boring in a regular world.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's similar because usually when guys do it, it's like Goonies, like adventure. But like this is much more feminine or classically, Secret Garden style, or
and his
Little
friends,
Princess style.
It's still Star Wars style, where it's like Luke Skywalker is destined to become
the
Jedi.
He's supposed to, bring balance to the Force.
Bring balance to the Force.
Okay.
It's
you
like
seem
that.
so okay. I'm going to give you a turn here, Ben.
Thanks. Thanks, Mark.
No. but you have been. I mean, like. You are very aware, it seems like, or that you feel like this is fairly Star Wars derivative, maybe. And I'm not saying that that's bad or good, but like...
I mean, it fits to the fantasy sci-fi arc, right? Where you have a hero...
The
hero
doesn't know where he's going.
He doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing, but everybody else knows that he's supposed to be, like, more important than he thinks he is. And he grows up, and sometimes you do it over 3 movies, and sometimes you do it over 7 books. Yeah, right. Like it's that kind of.
Okay, so you're using Star Wars not because you necessarily think it's derivative of Star Wars, but because you love Star Wars. Yeah. Okay, all right, that makes more sense. What's like the coolest? I mean, I kind of like murder. Right,
sure.
Like when you were saying about murder before,
like,
that sounds kind of cool.
Murders.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was actually going to sort of bring that up because the people who really love Harry Potter, there's the attachment to the characters, and then the fear for death of these characters, because surrounding Harry Potter is the ominous.
There's a lot of darkness,
death mark, and basically danger for his life, and that results in his friends and people he cares about actually being affected and being some of them being killed because of that, and the attachment of the audience and the readers and the people who saw the films was very strong and very adamant and very solid. It wasn't this is a fun little film. This is no, this is like
the stakes are pretty fucking high.
The stakes are high, but it's also like attachment to a Muggle world,
right?
And then you go into this fantasy world and you feel the same fear as you would in a crime fiction or something like that.
I think that's one of the fun things about the world was that they have all these magical elements, but there are still very real rules to the world. Like you die and you're dead.
Yeah.
Like you can maybe live, part of your memory might live in a picture that's moving, or you might be able to talk as a ghost or something, but you're fucking dead.
Once you are dead, it doesn't matter. You can't come back.
Do you think the loss of his parents was a large factor in that sort of solidifying the life and death reality of Harry Potter?
Are the books about mortality? Kind of, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, in a sense, because there's a visceral passion, and it feels like a life and death passion.
Right.
Well, I mean, I guess because it's always there, right? Like the first chapter, you learn about his parents dying, right? So like it is like a. I mean, and
his parents are a mystery to him, just like throughout the rest of reading it, that you're like, who were they? And he, at some point, is revealed that his dad might not have been the greatest in high school to other people, and it's sort of like, oh, that's
what,
weird.
like he would go around like giving people wedgies, like ghost wedgies, the wizard wedgies,
to one of his teachers, that he sees it in his mind from his memory.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, Harry caps a fool at the end of the first book.
Yeah. I like capping fools.
Yeah. Caps a fool.
What does he cap?
He kills
the
Quirrell.
Well,
Fucking
that's like a life. That's like
Quirrell.
that was like a passion, a crime of passion.
Yeah.
He was gonna get murdered. It's like kill or be killed. Yeah. But that's the thing too.
We call that second-degree murder.
Second-degree murder. He's second-degree murdered.
They didn't
that
even
fool.
fucking give him a trial.
Yeah,
they
were like,
cool. They're like,
he's a minor.
You.
He's getting to get off anyway.
Do you guys know that moment where it's like, I actually really care about this character?
I don't know if it was like a moment or if it's just the like compiling of elements that writers put on of like, he's an outsider, he's your entrance character, he's humble, he's kind. Like his parents died, left him a shit ton of money. He buys stuff for Ron all the time because Ron's family is poor as fuck, and he helps like invest in Ron's brother's like company.
Yeah. It's definitely I would not say that if you just handed me like book one and like I walked and that was all I had.
He doesn't
read,
earn it in book one.
You're like okay, like there's nothing there. Like, that's just a very. It's only with the cumulative time that you spend with the characters. Like it's a lot like the reason I've reread the book and like a lot.
7 times.
Somewhere around that amount of time.
He said that. Maybe he just said that to impress you.
It's because you.
Which book? Which book? Have you
all of
the whole series.
The whole series.
I don't know how you have the time.
No, that's fair enough.
The first ones go really quick.
That's true. That is true. You can read the first book in a day.
Spend a lot of time commuting between places too.
Yeah, all right, it's fine.
Anyway, it's the idea that like when you're rereading it, you get to revisit like characters who are fully dimensional, right? And so like they're people who, when you are finished reading, that's it. You don't get to spend any more time with them. So when you go back and reread it, like you get, especially Harry Potter, and even more so than like, I've reread Game of Thrones novels as well. It doesn't feel the same way. Game of Thrones, I'm not going back and revisiting like an old friend who like I'm very comfortable with. I'm still like reading it to like digest the world and like the people who are in it. Like, and none of the people in Game of Thrones, I'm like, oh, I identify with this person, right? In Harry Potter, it's like, oh, I get to reread about Dumbledore. There's like that like connection to like, I'm reading about Dumbledore now. Now I'm reading about Harry.
There's a comfort in a friendship and a kinship that you.
And it feels very much more like a world that you want to inhabit, where like you are comfortable with the people, because
nobody wants to live in Game of Thrones world,
right? No,
yeah, exactly.
Right. But I think it's also that he is somebody that could easily have a huge ego or be a dick, but he's always trying to do the right thing.
I mean, he's offered that point right in the first book, right? So in the first book, he has the choice. He could be friends with Ron,
who's that poor, stupid ginger.
Who's the poor kid who just looks like he's like, whatever. Or he can be friends with Draco, who is like the rich kid,
the slick,
who knows like
blonde.
He knows everything, right? And his dad's got a lot of money, and he's got the car dealership, and he's going to give him a car once he's old. Like it's that type of.
He's like, he's like that. Never mind. I was going to do a really weird, obscure Heather's reference, and I'm just not going to do a Heather's reference.
He, of course, was in Slytherin, which is a school that gets a really bad rap.
And so you have that. So you have that choice. We'll get into the houses in just a second. So he has that choice early on, and he makes it to go not the way where he could be the ego, be the person everybody's like, oh, I want to be that person. He was like, I just want to, like, I'm here. I just want to be a normal person.
Excellent.
Yeah. And he also gets in trouble a lot too.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the teachers are like, "Good for you, fuck you." You're like he's in detention all the time.
I just want to double check, Colleen, because like through your recitations, one might think that this children's book has a lot of F words in it.
It doesn't.
And it doesn't. I just want to.
But it feels very real to me.
The passion is strong enough.
Yeah, that I'm like, this is the fucking. Here's how it is.
Yeah, right.
You know,
so this is something I've literally written.
There are no
this down
F-bombs.
multiple times in my notes
houses.
right here. Okay, houses. Here's the deal. I know that there are houses. I think I can name them.
Okay.
Sure.
And it seems crazy to me, and I don't get it.
Challenge.
Here's the thing. Colleen also doesn't actually get it. And we have arguments about this all the time. About, like, being sorted into houses, and you're like, I don't want to be Slytherin because it would be that.
Well, I have debates about it. It's fine.
Okay,
all right, so what are the houses?
So you go in, and you get, like, put in one of these houses.
Yeah.
Which is where your personality...
But no,
hold on.
Shut up, Tully.
Let me go. Look, in the words of Mulholland Drive, let's say there's a buggy. Okay, and how many drivers of a buggy are there, Ben?
I don't care about this.
Okay.
There's one driver.
Thank you, Jonna. All right. And you like get to pick, but you're not really.
No, you don't
picking.
pick.
You're not really like. Well, you're sorted into a house based on who you are, and like that's kind of your personality mold, so to speak.
Hat does it.
Yeah,
A magical hat.
Of
the
course.
sorting hat, of course.
Okay, is it anthropomorphic?
Yes.
Does the hat talk
sings
to
a
you?
song.
Oh my god.
It doesn't talk. It doesn't talk to you. It announces to the world.
There's some
Well, it
talking
can
to
talk to you as you have
really?
the hat on.
Through
In the
through your
book,
mind?
it's in the book. Yeah.
Okay,
Through your
I was
mind.
liking this more before we talked about this hat thing. So,
But what's kind of
there's
funny
me.
about the singing hat is everybody else who's older, when the hat starts doing its spiel, is like, ugh, the fucking hat.
Yeah,
Here it
okay.
goes. So it's like people who are jaded towards the hat in the book too, which is something I love about.
Okay.
Which is something I
like
love
that
about
more.
the world.
They have two-
Is that not everything is like squeaky clean. Everyone's like, gee whiz, I'm so excited to be at school.
Yeah,
there are people who are like,
are-
shut up, hat. Like, I want to get to the feast.
I like this.
You know?
So there's Gryffindor,
Yeah.
Good, yep.
which is obviously like, oh, A number 1, we're the best. And then there's Slytherin, which is like evil. And we talked about this a little
Debatable.
before the
This is
show.
incorrect,
It's
but,
like,
like,
well, I mean,
go
but
ahead.
they're like the asshole
Yeah,
thing where
I mean,
nobody
for the
wants to
most
be
part-
in Slytherin.
No, they
There's
do.
plenty of people who want to be in Slytherin.
Yeah.
The douchebags.
I mean,
Yeah.
do you know people who went to Harvard and they chose to go to Harvard?
yeah, but
It's a lot like that.
So Slytherin is just the best house.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
they
it's-
think they're the best.
that's the thing, right?
They're very arrogant.
If you have a friend who, or people where their whole thing was like, I want to go to the best school and be like the best person. They're going to teach me that's what Slytherin. Like
They're very ambitious.
They're-
To spin on being a douchebag, they're very ambitious.
they're like everybody you know who drives a Lexus.
Yeah. Entitled a little bit.
Yeah.
Know-it-alls, maybe.
I was going to say something, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Have you
Okay.
ever noticed anybody who is driving poorly around you?
They're probably in
LA,
Slytherin.
They're in a Lexus. Because I don't know if you noticed, there's an option plan when you buy a Lexus for an extra $10,000. You don't have to obey any traffic laws. That's why they do it.
That's
It makes a
what
lot of
it
sense, right?
is. Oh my god!
Slam dunk on that
my
joke,
favorite
Ben.
part about like BMWs and Lexus or whatever is that I feel like when people drive them, they're thinking that I'm thinking like, wow, look at this guy. He looks statist, or whatever. But all I actually think when I see them is, oh my god, I have to drive a lot more careful when I'm around this person.
So you don't hit them.
Yes.
And don't let them in.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he.
Fuck
no,
you.
no.
Go
So-
around. Yeah.
So then there's a third one that I don't remember.
Sure.
But the
Okay.
fourth one is also important because that's the only Harry Potter joke I knew.
Yeah.
And it's Hufflepuff.
yeah, which
Right.
even
And
sounds stupid.
Hufflepuff.
Huff and Puff or Hufflepuff?
Hufflepuff.
Which is wonderfully named. Honestly,
Hmm.
fantastically named because they're the stupid one
Yeah.
that are like dummies full of like airheads.
No.
Ron
It's
Weasley
not
should
really.
be
agree
in
with
it.
that, too.
That's
Okay.
not really true, but I love to tease people about that.
Well, but
yeah.
again, this is. I'm not saying
Like a
this as-
stoner is in Hufflepuff.
I'm not saying this as an expert. I am saying this as like a guy
You
who
could do
only
that.
knows.
What would be the drug of choice for each of the houses?
Hufflepuff would be weed for sure.
Hufflepuff would be weed.
Slytherin would be
Sly-
cocaine.
Slytherin
for
would be
sure.
cocaine.
And like Molly, maybe.
Maybe it would be like Harry Potter, or it would be
Raven.
Gryffindor.
I think Ravenclaw would be
I don't
Molly.
know.
Ravenclaw.
Yeah,
Ravenclaw.
How are they not the evil one?
They're not. They're smart.
they're the smart ones because ravens are really smart.
They're very
yeah,
clever.
but claws are not smart.
Yeah, but
It's a raven.
ravens have claws.
Yeah, but that's like. Yeah, but that's like,
This is the shittiest debate I've ever
break
heard.
down the
saying, if we're
logic
saying
of
like
this.
elephants never forget, and it's
Yeah.
like if a clan is called Elephant Foot,
But
I wouldn't say that they're like smart people.
Mark, what I'm gathering is that the houses, what they're supposed to be, their issues are not actually what they end up being. The bad guys, Slytherin. Sometimes
for the
good.
most
Sometimes they
part-
come through.
Sometimes they do. There's only been a couple people that were like pretty solid that came from Slytherin. Most part, they're douchebags though.
They're like the lacrosse team.
Yeah, they're like the lacrosse team.
They're like the Duke
Yeah.
lacrosse team who just
Yeah.
rapes everything that they want.
But will they come through in the end when it needs to be?
Some of them
They
do.
do.
Okay.
Some of them do. But a lot of them had parents that were a part of the Death Eaters who were like the KKK
Some of
followers.
them
Okay.
had.
Oh, whoa!
Some of
So-
them had parents.
And a lot of them are pure bloods, so they come from both their parents are wizards, so they are kind of thinking like, I'm higher status. Like
Oh, this
someone
is not Harvard. This is
This is
very
class.
This is
British class structure.
Yeah, it's definitely there's some British
No, it
class.
is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
definitely
yeah.
For
British
sure.
class
Yeah.
structure.
And then Hufflepuffs are like the working man.
Yeah, they're like Hufflepuffs are considered to be like hardworking. All right, they're not the smartest, right? They're not the most ambitious, but they're the ones.
But
who
hey,
are
you're
gonna,
magical.
They're gonna
So by
put, like,
default,
they're gonna
you're in
put
our
effort
school.
into things, and they're gonna be. I think the thing that to remember all the time for like anybody who's like, oh,
Cedric-
Hufflepuff,
Cedric
right?
Diggory.
Cedric Diggory was chosen as Hogwarts champion.
Yeah, but then he fucking died.
Cedric Diggory.
Yeah. That's his name.
AKA the kid from Twilight,
Yeah,
Edward.
Robert Pattinson.
No, not Edward. Edward? Yeah, Edward.
Yeah.
Robert
Patterson.
So
But
got
he
that.
fucking dies.
Yeah, he
Like
dies
a
against
tr-
Voldemort. though.
Spoiler alert.
But
Okay,
how
We're
does
well
he
aware
die?
that all spoiling's going to
Here's
happen.
the most important question that I
Yeah.
have. What house would I be in if you were the hat? If
Oh,
you were
you're-
the singing hat?
You're probably Slytherin. You're.
What?
This is not. You don't think so?
All right.
Well, what
You're
would you-
Slytherin.
Okay, no, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
What do you think? What do you think?
Okay, so I have this debate all the time about like if I was a kid and I was put into the house, I would for sure be in
Slytherin.
Gryffindor as a kid.
Slytherin.
As a kid, because I was still like believing in the world, and now I'm fucking 30 and jaded as fuck, and I'm like, yeah, okay, Slytherin, I get it. Like,
I'll take it.
I'd be like, fuck
You're actually
everybody.
older than 30.
Yeah, okay, by a year. By
the
a
way,
year.
I just want you guys to know that is only something a husband can say. He did not say those things until after they gave
you know
their
what?
noodles or whatever.
I'm fine with it because I don't look 31.
No, that's fine.
In my mind. So.
I mean,
So he teases me all the time that I'd be in Slytherin, but I still believe that my heart of hearts, I would still be a Gryffindor.
and so going back to Mark.
Yeah. And he's a Ravenclaw.
So
Ben is
you're,
Ravenclaw.
I would say you're definitely not a Hufflepuff.
Yeah,
We
he's
can
too
rule-
smart
rule
for
you
Hufflepuff.
out- we can rule
he
you
could
out
be
of that.
Ravenclaw.
You
'Cause
could
he's-
be- you
the
could be-
debating, the
you could be
debating alone
Ravenclaw,
and
yeah.
the trivia knowledge alone,
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I feel like he's a Ravenclaw.
I have definitely said before about Mark, right? Colleen will attest to this. That I was like, I love hanging out with Mark, but it's really intense because all of his arguments are really well thought out. And so, like, I can be like, I like Star Wars, and he'd be like, well, why do you like Star Wars? Please list it in bullet form for 1 through 3. And I'd be and I'd be like, I don't know if I have one of those. He's like, well, I do, and here they are. And here they are. And it's like 1, 2, 3. Here's the reason, and it's like, oh, okay. So like, yeah, Ravenclaw could.
I feel like Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw would be.
Because here's the thing.
But I feel like you're also like the type of
Yeah.
person who.
This is what I'm interested in.
yeah.
Why am I evil? Why
It's
am I
not
the
that you're evil.
douchebag?
I think that you have like a very focused ambition side quality to you, and that's what would put you in Slytherin.
But I
I
think-
don't think because Gryffindor, like you have to think of Gryffindor as being like not only the dumb kids, but like the dumb kids.
Dumb kids
I mean,
in
like,
Gryffindor?
they're like
let him go.
Hufflepuff, but they're like Hufflepuff, but so like to the point where like they're like I'm Hufflepuff. But like I'm gonna do stupid stuff anyway because like I don't like I want to do.
I disagree with
I
this
don't know.
argument.
All right,
I think
let's
this is a shitty argument
Let
to
me put you
begin
on the
with.
spot. You've only met me for a few hours. What house would I be? in?
Hufflepuff.
See,
I think so
Sweet.
because you'd be like cool.
That's the response that
No,
Hufflepuffs
yeah,
have
that's
about
a
being
perfect response.
You're like, yeah, that's
like,
good.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
down with that.
I'm a wizard. I don't give a shit about all this.
Especially with your politics.
Yeah, you're not interested in the like politics. You don't want to really fight. You're just like, can we just chill and have a beer? Like that's Hufflepuff.
All right, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
down with
yeah,
that.
he's chilling and having a beer right now, studio
Yeah,
audience.
so
So other than the fact that I'm a smart douchebag, which I'm down with. That's cool.
Yeah.
No, that's what you said. That's
No
what I
one
heard.
said the D.
No, that's what I
douchebag.
heard.
No one gave you the D.
And I'm a
this
stoner
guy
cash.
It's a chill stoner. He's a stoner
chill
cash. Yeah, this is why we do so well together.
I think so. It makes
that's
sense
right.
to me.
Yeah.
All right, so I feel like is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, that's about accurate. All right, so I feel like I think we've only scratched the surface, but, you're only going to scratch the surface with 7 books.
Yeah.
So I think the big thing that I'm getting out of this sort of stuff is that really, well, you have this whole world that is deep. There's a lot of aspects going on. It's not always the A storyline. It really is often about the B, C, and D, and some of the storylines you don't actually see, but people that you can infer these sort of storylines with.
Yes.
Additionally, what kind of comes out from this is that you get this comfort and this kinship with these people, because even though there is murdery stuff going on, these characters feel comfortable. There's someone that you attach to, and the world, though it gets dark, is a world you want to inhabit rather than something like Game of Thrones where you just never want to be there.
Sure.
Right? So, and then, of course, you get to... What it sounds like is you get to figure out yourself. Is in the sense that
You also have magic,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
which is really a big
But I think,
takeaway.
No,
okay, no.
I am passing over this,
But I
but
think
you're
one
right.
of the cool things about the magic of the world is that everything builds onto itself. So there's shit that in the beginning, just as an example, in the beginning when he gets to the school, the carriages pull themselves, supposedly, and the kids get into they get to Hogwarts, they get off the train, and they get on these carriages that look like they're self-driving carriages that go up to the school.
Yeah.
After Harry sees death, he then sees these beings called Thestrials that are actually these horses that are pulling the carriages. And he's like, how come I can see them? And everyone else is like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? And him and another girl that saw her parents die,
Her mother died.
her mother die, can see them. And they're like, oh, these are creatures that have existed, but you just didn't see them yet because you didn't have the experience to see them.
You could also
So-
interpret that as fairly lazy writing on the
No,
part of...
I don't think so. But there's other shit
Don't
that.
you worry.
Take
But
it
there's
out,
other shit that,
but-
the feast that happens all the time, right? So there's the food that just appears.
Yeah.
Then at one point they reveal, no, there's elves. There's a caste system here.
Yeah.
And there are elves that are slave
Slaves.
laborers who are making the food and cleaning up after you. It
glad.
doesn't just magically
Good,
appear.
I'm glad.
And
there
then-
should be slaves.
and then Hermione-
No functioning society can
Right.
have
No-
success without
no British
free labor.
style caste system.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
And then Hermione's like, well, fuck that noise, and tries to start a whole thing to try to free the elves. And so it's this whole
that's
world.
one thing
What
that we
a
haven't
weird-
actually talked too much about is the thing that the certain groups have an issue with Harry Potter, and it's the magic and this sort of it's sorcery and
Right.
wizardry and
Right.
stuff like that, and it doesn't seem like that's a crux of the story.
We have spent very little time talking about the
but-
actual magic part about it.
But
You're right.
Yeah, right.
But you don't, when you're talking about Star Wars, the other
Right.
reference, you don't talk constantly about the Force.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just something that is there,
there,
and at certain
But
moments.
I think the cool thing about the magic in the world is that everything is kind of canon within it.
Mm-hmm.
So everything builds upon itself. Even though you can be like, well, you just pulled that spell out of your ass, but it might be pulled out of your ass in 2, but it becomes a really important spell in book 5.
Right.
That you're like,
Yeah.
oh shit,
It
that
doesn't.
spell.
They don't
It's part of
create.
the-
They don't have to retread and create new stuff because they're able to use the things that they create the first time.
it's part of the rules
Yeah.
of the world.
And I think
yeah,
what's
It-
really cool is
rather than
you learn the shorthand as you keep reading, so you don't need someone to explain to you what the carriages are doing afterward. You're like, yeah. So they get to the school, it's and she doesn't spend a ton of time with that. It's just
yeah.
you know how the ceiling is enchanted. Anyway,
Again,
moving
to
on.
Go back to
Right.
go back to Star Wars. It's like jump to warp. It's like
Yeah.
what's warp? Oh, in the first
Yeah,
few,
exactly.
few scenes, you saw let's go to warp speed and
Right.
what's the speed of light and the rest of
We
it.
could do this forever.
Look at
Hyperspace.
Don't
They go to hyperspace
Stop
in
it.
Star Wars.
Okay, look,
Warp
we've-
is Star Trek.
Oh.
I did make that mistake.
Okay, hold on, guys.
That's hilarious.
And
Oh, yeah, we
FTL is
do-
Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica.
But
Oh God, Battlestar.
we have successfully gotten, anyway. Actually, I'm just going to cut myself off there.
Yes.
But I think that is a very interesting point that we didn't talk much about the magic because everyone knows that the magic exists. And again, like Game of Thrones, if you like medieval politics stuff, you don't need to talk about that aspect because you're gonna like it.
It's also like talking about a comedy show and going into the minutia of the jokes. It's
Sure.
like, yeah, it's funny.
So,
like,
Ben, what is your favorite magical element? Like, what's your thing? Like, what's just like a magical element that sticks with you, other than the time travel thing? Because it was a mistake to bring in time travel.
Sure. I really like brooms.
Brooms?
Flying on brooms.
Flying on brooms.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the pensieve.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's pretty baller.
The pensieve?
The pensieve is a thing where you
It sounds like pensive.
Yeah.
It's very clever.
Yes. You can pull out memories and then put them into this like pensieve, which is this
A
like
bowl.
a bowl,
It's a bowl.
of like water, and then you can kind of go into it and see your memory from a different perspective.
Oh, I like that. That's cool. I'm down with that.
Here's something to think
But it
for you to
looks a
consider,
little
Mark,
different
about
too.
the world.
And if someone has like, there's a memory that's tainted or something, you can see that it's like weird.
Yeah,
It's kind of fucking cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So to think about this world, so as a kid growing up in the Wizarding world, it sounds fucking awesome. It sounds like, and as an adult, it's the fucking worst. As an adult, we're only introduced into stay-at-home moms, right, Mrs. Weasley, and then the idea that everybody who comes out of Hogwarts essentially gets hired by the government. Like, this is like Red State Nightmare right here.
Sure.
Right? Everybody gets hired by the government, you have a job, and all these jobs are just like fucking desk jobs, right? In a fucking building in London where like you go to work where you have to go through a toilet to get in there, right? And then once you're in there, all you're doing is answering memos about like bullshit nonsense,
Yeah, but
right?
the pen
And-
will write itself and then it flies away.
Right, so
to
like
the
you
other
don't even have to be
department.
there, right? But like it's like this
Kinda
whole
cool.
thing is
I
like,
like that.
Like
Right?
it's like
Punching the clock.
like yeah, you go into work.
No, but you don't have to punch the clock. The clock punches
Punches
itself. It's a
itself.
magical
Right, it's a
world.
magical
be
clock.
there for it
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
decide.
And so like,
Yeah.
and so like, and
Yeah.
then the only other jobs other than that are being teachers. And that's the only thing we know about the magical
He makes
world.
a super good argument.
Right? It's like it sounds super boring. It's
Or
like,
you could
cool.
be-
So you've done all this. You've done really well on all your scores and stuff in school. We have your job right here. Yes. Okay. So
You're
you're
working for the government.
and you're working for the government, and your job in the government is to propaganda. Here you go.
Yeah. or you could be like, fuck this noise, I'm going to be a dark wizard
Yeah,
and fuck
right.
up a bunch of
right.
shit.
No wonder-
so now
no
I
wonder
understand the
Voldemort-
Yeah,
appeal.
because everybody, it's so much more appealing.
He's
than
like,
actually
I
doing
don't
a
want to
job.
be an Auror.
Well,
Yeah.
this is
Actually, I'm trying to think what other like there's like a magical maintenance guy, right? Like imagine like you get done for school, you've like worked really hard. Here are your scores, right? We have an opening for you at the ministry as the maintenance guy.
There's also another couple things that I really love magical wise.
Okay.
A port key.
Yeah.
Super cool. It's an object that you can kind of like.
Oh, apparating.
And apparating is the
That would
fucking
probably be the
coolest.
best.
It's like
It's
like teleporting.
okay.
So
And you get to be a certain age, and when you understand how it works,
which is really great because you can't learn it when you're 11, but when you're
like 18, it's like
16
driving
or whatever, right? Like you get your license really conveniently in time for when we need to be going places really fast and really far in the story.
So the working world of Harry Potter is like a cross between Brazil and Lord of the Rings.
So I'm just,
Yes.
it's
Right.
kind of like
Sounds a lot
I would
like
also-
it's like so
Fair
like,
enough, you'd break
like
away.
the reason
You
why,
know what?
Yeah, the
I
reason
would
why we don't
also-
have a Harry Potter like as an adult is because it would be a lot like fucking Office Space.
Yeah.
He'd have like a Lumbergh who come in.
we
and
haven't
be
made
like-
that yet.
I would say-
We have Dwight.
I want to
We
say
do have
there'd be a
Dwight.
great spin-off of like a mafia version of Wizards, like The Sopranos, but with wizards. Like, and they're just like fucking killing bitches and like dealing like I don't know,
Wizard drugs.
flu powder. I don't know. Like, would people snort
anybody
that? I
out
don't
there
know.
in the world wants
Ground
to
up
write that
fairies,
script, let us
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
yeah,
man,
great.
of course. Oh, unicorn blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, yo, this
Gonna
sounds
help
great.
it.
This kind of sounds like True Blood.
Yeah.
But you know, your
This
like
sounds awful,
diagnosis,
never
your
mind.
diagnosis of this world reminds me of. Do you ever read Salman Rushdie's essay about Wizard of Oz? He'd always talk about Wizard of Oz. It was like when I was a kid. You know, Dorothy's house lands on whatever the Wicked Witch of the East.
Yeah.
And she goes down, and the Munchkins are like so happy that they're like, ah. But he was like, even as a kid, I looked at that town and I was like, man, this town is in awesome shape. They all have jobs. There's like the baker. There's the guild, so they can unionize.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like clearly,
Good for them.
this is
Lollipop guild,
Yeah, this
too.
is a super functional town.
Right.
So like,
Delicious guild.
So how terrible could your dictator have been, right?
yeah,
Like,
with this like wonderful.
You're still
everybody's-
thriving with a fucking witch in charge.
Exactly. So that's basically
Right.
what you've Salman Rushdie'd Harry Potter.
There
Is
you
basically
go.
what you've done.
Yeah.
So okay, so if someone wanted to get into it, it sounds like you guys are like yo, books.
Yeah.
Now, would you go like book 1, movie 1, book 2, movie 2?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think, Ben?
so.
I don't know. I mean, I never had that opportunity, so I don't even know.
That's what I
don't
did.
even know what it would be like to read a book and then watch the movie right away.
Okay, but you
I
did
don't know if
most
it would-
def books first.
I would
I
definitely
know,
say.
I know
book.
when I read, because when I read the first one, there was 4 of them that were done. So then I finished the 4th one. I had to wait, like all the other schmucks
Sure.
at that time. And then I had to wait for the movies. But before the movies would come out, I would usually reread the book if it had been a while.
Yeah.
So I
guess that's
like
true.
being able to read the book and then see it, because I also like to see the differences and what they... Like,
Yeah,
refresh
sure,
my
sure,
memory
sure.
of, like, what are they nodding at and what are they decide to take out.
I
and, like,
definitely
why.
wouldn't ever go book, movie. Oh, I really want to know what happens next, so I'll watch the next movie.
Okay, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, don't do that. Read the books first.
Because then you'll be disappointed in
Yeah.
like the back translation, I guess.
So are the first books, like I know you're saying they're like a little younger, whatever, are they going to be like a little struggle to get through? Is it going to be like seasons 1 and 2 of Buffy, where you're like, you're like, I got to get through these to get the good stuff?
and if you're doing it for the first time,
no.
you probably. And the great thing about the first books is they're kid books and they're like 160
Yeah,
pages.
it's super easy.
Right, so like even if you're like, oh my god, I just want to get through this, like you'll be through it. Like
Yeah.
it'll
okay.
only take you a couple hours to sit there and read it.
And when do you think, like...
The second book was shaky for me, and it still is shaky, but all the other ones I think are great.
Okay, so if I'm
solid.
like a 30-year-old and I start reading it, like at what point do you think like I should be hooked? Or
The
I'd
end
be
of
like,
the first chapter.
I mean, okay.
Realistically, end of book 3. I think
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
1 and 2 might be a struggle for somebody who's coming at it,
Maybe.
who hasn't had the itch to do it.
Yeah.
Like you might get through books 1 and 2 and be like, I don't know, I don't get it, right? But like there were important
Singing
foundations.
hat, the stupid singing hat.
Right.
And,
Oh yeah,
I'm in
his
the
song's
douchebag
gonna
group.
go for a while.
It's like a page in the half.
My favorite part
because it
about
sets up what the houses are.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, my favorite part, I loved always the singing parts of like Lord of the Rings and stuff because I could just like flip the next 2 pages of the
it's
book
like
and
go
not
through-
read
go
them.
One of the
Yeah.
cool things though that
Yeah.
I really appreciate about the book is that she also randomly, as we get into the propaganda aspects, will have a whole chapter devoted to like a newspaper article. So it's written in a different person's perspective
changes the
of a
tone.
story.
So it's
of
basically
something.
like Ulysses. It's like Ulysses, but
Sure, I don't know.
Wizard World.
Yeah,
Cool.
sure.
But it happens occasionally.
So did Harry Potter change your life?
Did it change my life? You know what? It did actually reawaken the thing in my head of like reading. Hey, that's cool. I remember what this used to be like, to like enter into a world that, like we were saying before, where you feel like you have. It sounds so cheesy, but it's like, oh, my friends are back. But
It's probably the only book series I would say where I feel like it's like my friends.
yeah, it
It's like
just
the
made
Cheers
me,
of books.
Yeah.
kind of,
for sure.
yeah. Everybody knows my name,
But
they
it's the
don't
magical
know me at all.
Cheers of books.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like,
Impressive.
I think Cheers would have been a lot better show if
had there
they
been
were
books. If it had
been
all
books.
wizards.
Yeah.
If there was
Oh, I
books
thought you were
first.
saying if it was a book.
That's what I thought too. I would have loved to read the first season of Cheers.
I think
What
there's
is
money
the
on the
minutia
table here. Do you
about
think
that?
we can
But
get
the,
some money? in
but the cool
licensing
thing about
this?
the immersion of it is, and I'll just as a side note, is
Yeah, yeah.
I went to the Harry Potter world the summer it opened.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I want to see for the first time being able to like be there.
Physical world.
And it was so fucking cool. Like,
Yeah?
there's shit that, like, it's authentically kind of small. And one of the best rides, this has never happened before, but, like, the Hogwarts ride, the best part of that ride was waiting in line. Because as you wait, you get to see, like, different parts of the school and, like, different
Yeah.
rooms and shit. And, like, the detail of stuff is so cool.
And it's not like Disneyland where they just like make up a bunch of detail that you don't have association with. And when you're in the line, you're like, oh, this is cute. Like,
whatever.
oh, this is cool. Whatever.
Yeah, no,
But,
you're like-
this is something you love.
Oh my God, that's
already.
why-
Yeah, you're like, this is herbology. And that's Dumbledore's chambers. And
I
that's,
don't know,
like...
the new Disney stuff for the Marvel place that they're going to establish in the Star Wars one, I think will be a
Oh,
lot
that's
like
going to be cool, too.
the Harry
Yeah.
Potter world where the detail will be just like,
When they've got
Well, now
they've
they're all
got
licensed
free
property.
reign, they can
Yeah,
just
they're
basically
just
use
gonna-
every
Yeah.
element.
Just
But
print money.
They did that with Harry Potter.
But that, I think that's the biggest thing about the world. It is so immersive that, like, as an adult human being, I took time, like, off from work and, like, cashed in a bunch of, like, I'm going to fly to Florida and I'm going to fucking hang out in Harry Potter world.
And-
as an adult, and I lost my mind for, like, 6 hours.
And for the audience to know, like, you guys don't know Colleen maybe, but she's a pretty semi-functional
Yeah.
adult human.
Yeah.
She's not like
Definitely semi-functional.
not
Semi-functional.
completely caught in
But
the
I
rest
can
of
hold it
development.
together in front of people to where like a lot of people don't know I have like crazy obsessions with like sci-fi things.
And this is why I do the podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
To out you.
Yeah,
honestly.
shit.
That's good.
But I curse when I talk about it because I'm cool.
So is there anything else you wanted to know, Jono, about
Ben,
about
I mean,
the pods?
did it change your life?
Yeah, well, I use it as a touchstone to compare women, and then pick my wife based on her love of it.
That's a dead lie.
Yeah, well, you know.
That's-
I mean,
Sounded good.
it did work though.
Someone's trying to get
Would
laid.
you be Ben? Would you be a different person if you hadn't read it?
I think the only
He would have just kept reading shitty Star Wars books.
I was gonna say the only property I think that would have made me like a different person that if I hadn't experienced it would be Star Wars.
Yeah.
But Harry Potter's up there.
And
good.
Harry Potter's a
Significant
lot
in that
cooler.
way.
You also spent a lot of hours with it if you read it each
Yeah,
one
I know.
7 times.
I know.
So, okay.
Think of all those conversations I could have been having with random strangers on like a train, and I chose not to.
Good for you.
Which, P.S.,
A
this
life
is one of the
well
only
spent.
books that actually made me cry, like as I was reading a chapter.
But you also don't like reading.
I know, but it wasn't
So
like
you're saying
crying
you
because I
read
didn't
and
like to
cry at
read.
books all the time?
I was on a public transportation like
Oh,
train,
the best time to cry.
and I was reading book 6. And everybody knows about book 6. There's a fucking chapter where Dumbledore dies, and it was like it was the White Tomb.
I saw a T-shirt.
It was called the White Tomb, and I was on the train just fucking crying. And the best part was other adults were on it, and they one woman like caught me and was like,
Gave
"Yeah,
you
I
the
know
nod.
where you are."
Gave you the
Yeah,
nod,
it gave me the
yeah.
nod of like respect, and she was like over 30.
So, yeah, and this is another thing that we didn't really like broach on too much, but like, look, yeah, maybe it's a kiddish thing. Our whole
It only
lives,
starts off as a kiddish
and
thing.
our whole like lives are young adult Arrested Development right now. The biggest blockbustery movies are like comic booky.
Yeah.
Like, look, get over yourselves. If you think you're more of an adult than you should read it, to read Harry Potter, then you're
Yeah.
just a jerk who is
Right.
probably some Gen X trash.
I think that you'd really love book 4 because book 4 is when shit gets real.
I really like real shit. So this
Like
is,
some dude's hand gets chopped off.
I'm down.
Like
oh my god, this
there's
is great.
yeah, there's
Wait,
like
is that the one with time travel? Because
no
okay,
time travel
yes.
is 3.
Okay.
It's
It's definitely paint myself out of a corner. Time
Yeah,
travel.
I'm
Yeah, but
bad with that.
but
I
I
can't
really
stand
like
Back to the
that.
Future 2 because of its
okay.
use of time
Well, then
travel.
I think
Yeah, we've already discussed that.
I think
tonight.
then you'll need to just get to like 4 because
Okay.
then it's so dark and then everything after that, like book 5 is only darkness.
I'm down.
Everything goes wrong.
Oh, this is okay. Now I'm sold. You got me now.
It's the
like
worst.
happy because
Book 5 is
happy
the
stuff
worst.
that
You also
goes
spend
bad.
you still also spend the entire time of book 5 fucking hating Harry. Because
Well-
he's just such a bitch.
That's like season 6 of Buffy. Man, you guys have
You're
to watch
gonna love
Buffy.
it. You're
This
gonna
is-
love
This
it.
is so Buffy-like to me. This is very interesting.
But there's a really cool reason why he's that angry though. That's
What's-
revealed later and you're
Yes.
like, "Shit."
Same
Yeah.
thing with season 6 of Buffy.
See?
Yo. Okay, so awesome. Thank you guys so much for like coming on and talking
Yeah.
about this sort of stuff. And do you have stuff that y'all want to plug a little bit? Like, if they want to talk to you more about Harry Potter, how can they find you?
Oh. You can find me on Twitter and Vine. I'm on Vine at Colleen Evanson. And I also have a side project that's super nerdy right now on Vine called The X-Files Abridged, where I'm doing every single X-File episode in 6 seconds. I'm having a really good time with it. And it's told through my Mulder and Scully action figures, of
And you
course.
have good sets for those too. I've seen,
AKA
like, the
my
back-
laptop with images behind them, and I just try to make sure the reflection isn't bad.
But for ice,
I put them in my freezer.
yeah. This is
Yeah, so I'm also on Twitter. You can hit me up for Harry Potter nerd things at Lady Fantastic, LADIE Fantastic.
okay. And
Mr.
Ben Tully.
all of my stuff is in the past. Currently, right?
What the hell is it? That sounded like super dark and real.
I know anything
Oh,
I
I'm
had
from
to
the
plug.
past.
Anything I had to plug is all. I'm not doing anything currently. I'm just working.
If
my
you want to
life and
reminisce
job.
about King of the Nerds,
Yeah, I was on King of the Nerds. That was a thing.
Yeah.
We had a podcast that we're
wait,
not doing
Ben.
anymore.
Did you lose
Yeah, I came in second place.
Okay.
we do have we have a podcast we're thinking about reviving.
Reviving. We had
Which was called- King of the Boyfriends.
King of the Boyfriends is still there. There's episodes you can listen to. We had a friend the other night at dinner
pitched to us
that we had to keep doing it.
And part of his spin...
part of it was like, you guys are just awesome.
Well, part of the spin was doing like a sarcasm meets science kind of thing. Because Ben is actually a PhD in microbiology. Yeah. He's like really smart and way out of my league in the brain department. But I just like to be like, hey, yeah.
But you can, I guess, reach out to me if necessary at Deep Sea Sith on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Only if necessary. He does not
have
the social calls.
Don't try to DM him, okay?
Only if it's important.
I bet you he got during King of the Nerds. He got a lot of DMs from ladies, didn't he?
A lot of those ladies wanted his D.
Yeah,
Am I right?
I got a couple.
High five myself.
I got a couple of women who I would say are of an appropriate age.
14?
Who are older than 20 who were pursuing for that reason and didn't realize I was in a relationship. I had a couple where they were very young, not for the suggesting anything sexual, but who were like way too intense. Like had no idea
Very
of like,
into him.
like I'm 14, like I have like I'm at school, but now I'm off. Let me message you, and I'm like, listen, hold on, I'm a fucking adult.
I drew a picture of you.
I have a lot of shit going on. I do not have time to talk to you right now.
Then they get mad immediately.
And then they get mad at you for like not spending enough time talking.
They're like,
to them.
where'd you go? What's going on? Do you hate me now? I'm gonna kill myself. And you're like, what?
So, long story short,
at
at Deep Sea Sith,
Yeah.
start sending them your school drawings of him
and
and
ask him what he's doing.
I'm really into drama, so like if you have something
Try to
going
tell
on, let me
him that
know.
like he should leave his wife for you.
Oh yeah.
That'd be great.
So thank you so much for coming and joining us and teaching me a little about this Harry
I
Potter.
hope that you read the books. We have them if you would like to.
You can borrow those books. You
Not
have to-
those, the
okay,
other ones.
the good, the bad
Oh my god,
We
wait,
got the
there are
good
good
set.
ones and bad
We
ones.
got the
There's
good
a good
set.
and there's a not good set.
See, some people were wondering, Jono, some people were wondering if this was actually
sure.
subculture. This is a subculture. This is
And
right.
our good set is the British version.
So, it's spelled color with a U.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Jono, I think it's time to cap off this podcast. What
It
do you
is,
think?
yeah. I think we've got all we can into this, all the
Yeah,
information.
we've
required.
packed all the flavor into it, and flavor O-U-R.
Oh shit.
You know what I mean? We've packed
Nice.
flavor.
Flavor.
Yeah, exactly. So for Jono and Mark,
Thank you very much for listening.
this is what you're seeing. You can get at me at Mark Calderaro at Twitter or on the twits.
At Twitter.
And I'm at John Oldham.
You got it.
Yeah, you know, whatever.
You know,
If I was listening, I'd be like, what did he say?
it's my tactic.
Look, literally, we have done 5 to 6 podcast episodes together, and this guy still doesn't know his own Twitter handle.
Good.
So, Jono, Jono, Oldham, Oldham.
And that's why he's a Ravenclaw.
That's why I'm a Ravenclaw.
Bitch! Knocks the microphone over.
Yeah.
And,
And that's why you're in Slytherin. Never mind.
This has been What You're Seeing, and that's why I'm a Ravenclaw. Bitch.
That's your scene. What's your scene?
And another thing I've been wondering lately.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
I know. Way to pat yourself on the back.
Well, no, I was talking about the other guys.
Oh, I know. They were amazing, weren't they?
Yeah, you're alright. You're alright too.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
problem.
Yeah, so that was the first episode.
That was Harry Potter. Now we know all about it. Now we actually care about it.
I know.
And can get involved with it because we know all the little details and what everything's awesome about it.
I think one of my favorite parts about Harry Potter, knowing about it, is that, like, now when it comes up in a group conversation, I won't just check out. Like, I'll actually kind of be able to engage on some level.
Yeah, it's important.
I know, right? So this was just our first episode. We'll be releasing these bi-monthly, once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's every 2 weeks.
Yes, every 2 weeks we'll be doing this. And we've got tons of cool stuff coming up, right?
Yeah, we've got Comic-Con.
Yes.
Horror movies.
And Reddit, a really cool episode on Reddit. And our Comic-Con guy who has been to Comic-Con for like the last 15 years in tons of different capacities. It's really, I'm really pumped for this, Jono.
They're so great, these conversations. You get to the heart of what people are passionate about, and it's so much fun.
So, you join us in 2 weeks for another episode.
That's right.
Again, If you have some cool scene that we might not have heard of, or if you think that you would be great on this podcast, send us an email at what'syourScenePodcast@gmail.com.
We want to know what your scene is.
I know, right? Or
Tell
find
us.
us on the Twitter at WYS_podcast. We're there. We want to talk to you, at least for the moment. You seem nice.
Hit us up, guys.
Thanks for joining us for What's Your Scene, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.